Hey there Luma, I'm super excited to show you how to knit this hooded scarf with pockets. It's chunky and cozy. It has an amazing textured stitch. I know you're gonna love it. It's Denise from LoomaHat.com, and before we go too far with the pattern, let's talk supplies. So you're gonna need any shape loom with at least 35 pegs, 486 yards of bulky weight yarn, your loom hook, your yarn needle, a pair of scissors, and optional stitch markers. And if you want the written pattern, be sure to visit LoomaHat.store. All right, we're going to start with the hood. Because many of you ask, I'm going to go real quickly through my marker placement for the hood. I use 17 rubber and 1 metal ring marker. So I marked my edges, which are 2 right here with the stretched out rubber markers. The first stitch pattern with the metal, and then I did every other because it's got kind of like a rib stitch pattern, and then ends with an additional 1. And again, the corners, I put a stretched rubber band. You don't have to do this if you're able to follow a pattern well. I have a bit of an attention deficit and I have to use markers. Now we move on to the cast on, and we're going to do an eWrap cast on of 35 pegs. So get your single strand of bulky weight yarn. I'm going to secure it using a simple knot. You can use a slip knot if you're more comfortable, and either direction is going to be fine. I'm going to be knitting from right to left, and I'm going to take my working yarn from the back and wrap each peg completely. Again, this is the eWrap cast on, and so you take your working yarn from behind, bring it to the front, and completely wrap your peg. And you're going to do that for 35 of them. And again, I'm using a round loom, but you could use any shape loom. So remember, rectangular, straight, all of them are going to work perfectly. So no worries, whatever you have, at least 35 pegs. Once you reach 35, go ahead and put another eWrap over that. So wrap it again. Wrap it again. Take the bottom loop over the top and knit off. This is going to secure your yarn. And then take the working yarn, and now you're going to wrap the remaining 34 pegs. So you should have a loop on the bottom and another one on the top. Once you reach peg 1, hold on to your working yarn, get your hook, and take the bottom loop over the top. And now you've knit off peg 1. You need to do that for the remaining pegs that have 2 loops. Take the bottom loop over the top and knit that off. Once you've done all 35 of your pegs, then you are done with your cast on. Now we work row 1. And for row 1, you're first going to start with that edge where you're always going to slip the first stitch when you begin a row and then knit 1. That's your edge. Then you're going to work the stitch pattern, which for row 1, it's going to be purl 1, knit 1 until the last 3 stitches where you will purl 1 and knit 2. And no worries, I'm going to break it down as we go along. So I have an empty peg here because I had 36 pegs. These are my edges, remember that, okay? And we're going to start with the first one, which is right here, peg 1, which I'm going to slip and then wrap peg 2 because I'm doing 1 eWrap. Right here on peg 2, that's my edge. Those are my 2 first stitches, and then I'm going to work the stitch pattern, which is 2 stitches. And so you see that I have a marker every other peg, right? I have 1 empty, 1 with a peg, 1 empty, 1 with a peg, all the way to the end where I'm going to do those last 3. So I have a purl here because everything with a marker is a purl, and then my edge, which is 2 knit stitches at the end, which will be pegs 34 and 35. So we did pegs 1 and 2. Now we're ready for the third peg where I start my stitch pattern right here that I have my metal stitch marker, and I'm going to do in a purl stitch. So I put my working yarn under the existing loop from the top. I'm going to scoop up that working yarn to create a new loop. I'm going to take the existing loop off the peg, and I'm taking that one off, and I put the new loop on the peg, and I pull that working yarn to tighten the stitch. That was my purl. That is followed by an eWrap. So I wrap the peg, take the bottom loop over the top, and knit off. And sometimes these chunky yarns kind of split, so excuse me for that, but I like to show you where I have a hard time in case you do too. So there's my eWrap, and now on my next peg, which is, for me, it's marked, I'm going to go ahead and do another purl stitch, tighten, and then do an eWrap. So remember that we're doing that purl knit, purl knit, purl knit, purl knit, and you're going to continue that. That is the stitch pattern, which is the horizontal broken rib stitch, is the stitch pattern that's used for this project. And it is a 2-stitch pattern, and so I repeat that. I repeat those 2 stitches, purl knit, purl knit, purl knit. I'm going to continue to do that until the last 3 stitches. So I continue, purl 1, knit 1. So this is why I like my stitch markers, because I know that I'm going to purl wherever there's a stitch marker, and I'm going to knit where there isn't one. All right, so we go all the way to the last 3, and for those last 3, which are right here next, I'm going to go ahead and purl, which ends the stitch pattern, and then I'm going to do 2 knit stitches for my edge. So wrap those last 2 pegs and knit off. That's the end of row 1. You're now ready for row 2. Row 2 looks exactly like row 1. It's the same repeat but in the other direction. And so again, we're starting a row with a slip 1, knit 1, which is the edge, and then purl 1, knit 1 until those last 3 stitches where we will purl 1 and then knit 2 being the edge in the other direction. So let's start just like before, where we're going to slip that first stitch right here. We're going again in the other direction, and so we eWrap the next peg. And now your edge is done. You're ready to start with the stitch pattern, which starts with a rib stitch. So we're going to purl 1 right here, put the working yarn under the loop from the top, scoop up, create a new loop, take the old one off, put the new one on, and pull. That's your purl stitch. Wrap the next stitch, which is peg 4. And then here's a little trick that I use if you don't want to use stitch markers, is that I will wrap 1 peg and then purl the next one, wrap but not knit off, and that lets me know that that was a knit stitch. That's a little trick you can use. Wrap the peg but don't knit off, and then purl the next knit stitch. You can then come back later and knit off all of your knit stitches. And that works for this row. You purl your stitch, then wrap the next one, then purl the stitch, then wrap the next one, and then come back and knit off all your knit stitches. And you're doing that, remember, until you get to those last 3 stitches where you're going to purl 1 and then knit the last 2, which are your edge on the other side. And so you wrap those 2 stitches and then knit off. And then, like I said, you can then, since you're done with your row, go back and knit off all of the knit stitches. That's just an option I wanted to give you. All right, once you're done with that, you're done with row 2 and you're ready for row 3. Row 3 is easy peasy. You're not going to believe. All you have to do is slip that first stitch, as you always do every time you start a row, and then you're just going to knit the remaining 34 pegs. You're basically knitting the row. Now remember that you're turning around opposite direction, slip that first stitch, and actually, you can go ahead and take the knot off the anchor peg because your yarn is now secure. And then skip that first peg and start wrapping. You got to wrap all 34 of them. Super easy. These are all eWraps. You guys love eWrap. So you can't get any easier than this row. Once you're done wrapping all your pegs, then all you got to do is get your hook, and you're going to take that bottom loop over the top and knit off. And just keep knitting off, knit off, knit off, knit off, knit off. Once you're done with that last knit off, you're ready then for row 4. Row 4 is also a really easy to do row. All you're going to do is, as always, at the beginning of the row, you're going to slip that first stitch. Then you're going to do 1 knit stitch, and you're going to follow that by knitting 31 purl stitches. That's going to leave you 2 stitches at the end. Those 2 pegs, you're going to do 2 knit stitches, and that's row 4. So real quick, let me show you. Here you're turning around, you skip the first one and do a knit stitch on the one to follow. Then all you're going to do at this point is purl the next 31 stitches. Now, because you guys already know how to do these stitches, I'm not going to drag this on for too long. Remember, at the end of this row, you have another edge. You're always doing 2 knit stitches at the end of your row for your edge, right? You got this. So keep knitting, keep doing those purls. You need 31 of them in total, and then end the row with 2 knit stitches. Once you've done that, you're done with row 4. Now you're going to do rows 5 through 92, and for these rows, what you're actually going to be doing is just repeating rows 1 through 4, and we're going to do that 22 more times. I know for some folks this is a bit confusing, so let me show you what that looks like. When I say you're going to repeat rows 1 through 4 22 times, you're doing those 4 rows count as 1 repeat. So you can see here rows 5, 6, 7, and 8, they are exactly rows 1 through 4. That's 1 repeat. 9, 10, 11, and 12, that's a second repeat. And rows 13, 14, 15, and 16 are another repeat. So that set of repeats, you're doing 22 of them. If you want to change the size of your hood, because you really should put it on your head and size it before you cast off, let me give you some idea as to how you figure out whether it's the right size or do you need to do more rows. With the 35 pegs that we used, that gave us a 13-inch depth on that hood. So if you need more space in that direction, then you're going to have to adjust and add more pegs. To make the hood taller, then you have to add more rows. For each additional inch that you want to add in height to the hood, just add another set of rows 1 through 4. Once you're done knitting those rows, the next 2 look extremely familiar. They're the same as rows 1 and 2. You're going to slip 1, then knit 1, and then do purl 1, knit 1 until the last 3 stitches. And then you're going to purl 1 and knit 2. Alright, you guys are expert doing these rows, and so I'm going to take this time to say thank you to Carol Maple from Promise Learning ATL, Penny Pitchard, Barbara Ledger Bob Urquhart, and Joanne Claybor for covering the cost of closed captioning this video. Once again, thank you guys so much for this. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, when you're done with those 2 rows, then your very last row will be a slip 1 knit 34. In other words, you're going to knit the row, and then you're ready for your cast off, and we're going to do a basic bind off of these 35 pegs. First things first, and that is that I don't want you to worry at which side of the knitting loom you're at. The thing I want you to focus on is that we are going to be working on 2 pegs at a time. So whichever side you're on, grab your working yarn, and you're going to wrap those 2 pegs and take the bottom loops over the top, and you're going to knit off. We're going to call this peg 1 and peg 2. So you're going to take the loop off of peg 2, move it to peg 1, tighten the stitch, take the bottom loop over the top and knit off, and then take the loop off of peg 1 and move it over to peg 2. Now peg 1 is empty and you have a new peg 1 and peg 2. Unlike the first time, this time you're only going to wrap peg 2, knit off, take the loop off of peg 2, put it on peg 1, tighten your stitch, bottom loop over the top and knit off peg 1, move the loop from peg 1 over to peg 2. Now that peg has been cast off, both of them, and you move to the next one. You wrap peg 2 only, take the loop off of peg 2 over to peg 1, tighten, knit off, and take the loop from peg 1 to peg 2. You're going to continue doing that until you're at the end of that loom where you have the last 2. You're going to wrap peg 2, which is your last peg, take the loop over to 1, tighten, knit off, and then pull on that loop and cut your working yarn. Leave a long tail in case you need it, and then pull that loop all the way through and free your yarn from the knitting peg, the knitting loom, and you're done. Look how nice your edge looks. It looks super neat. Now the other edge, which is your cast on, they don't look exactly the same because the cast on is a bit loose. So you don't have to do this, but I do. I'm going to go to the other end where I had the knot. I'm going to undo the knot and pull that working yarn from where it's at. I'm going to loosen from that first loop, and then I'm going to go all the way to the other end and start pulling on those loose loops. Again, you don't need to do this. I just want both sides to look the same, and this is an easy way of tightening your cast on loops, which are usually very loose. You just pull on a loop. It will show you where the next one is because you're going to tug on it, and as you tug and you find the next one, pull on that one and just keep going, keep pulling on those loose loops. You're going to go through the entire row pulling on them as I'm doing, and you're going to see that the edge looks really nice. I like to do this because it looks good and it's actually easier to sew when you don't have loose loops to deal with. And as you can see, it cleans up and it looks awesome on both ends. And then once you get to the end, you'll have a big amount of yarn. Just pull it and it'll finish and it'll tighten up. And as you can see, now they both look exactly the same. And like I said, this just makes it easier to sew, but you don't need to do this if this is problematic for you. All right, put this piece to the side. It's time now to start working on the scarf. So we're going to change marker placements. This time I'm just using 7 rubber extended rubber bands, and we're going to do it over 19 pegs. I'm not going to detail this. You'll see as I work. It's super easy what I did, and you'll be able to pick up on it. So we're going to cast on, eWrap cast on 19 pegs, And eWrap cast on is super simple. You already know how. So we're going to go real quickly through this. You're going to, as always, secure your secure your yarn to the anchor peg, and we're going to wrap. And just like before, you're going to do 2 rows of this. We are knitting flat. So once you get to the end right here, you're then going to turn around just like we did before, and then just keep knitting. Now, last time I knit off that last peg. You could do that if you want. It just make sure that you don't unravel. All right, and then once you've got loops on the top and the bottom, then just start doing your knit off. You need to knit off all 19 pegs. So you can see here, I'm showing you, you can easily see how I placed those 7 stitch markers. And by the way, if you want to get any of these stitch markers, just go to LoomaHat.store. Okay, now let's start with row 1. For row 1 on the scarf, we're going to do just like we did with the hood. We're going to slip that first stitch and then knit 1, which is your edge. Then you're going to purl 2 and knit 2, and do that. Purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2 until you get to the last 5 stitches, and then you're going to purl 2, knit 3. So we're going to go pretty fast now, okay? Slip 1, knit 1. That's your edge right here. And then you're going to start that, they call it a 2x2 rib, right? So 2 purl stitches, 1, 2, and then 2 knit stitches. So we're doing the 2x2 rib stitch. That is the top of your pocket, because remember the scarf is just one piece and you're folding it over. So this is that top of the first pocket of your scarf, right? So you're going to continue to do that purl 2, knit 2, continue. You're going to make it through the whole row, and I wanted you guys to see my placement here, okay? So of my markers, that's why I wanted you to see the whole row. All right, so we're at the last 5. We're going to do 2 purl stitches. Those are the last 5 stitches, and we're going to end this row with 3 eWrap knit stitches. Knit off, and you're done, and now you're ready for row 2. Row 2 is super easy. So you're going to slip that first stitch as you've been doing, and then all you need to do is knit 2, purl 2 all the way until the end of the row. In other words, that 2x2 rib stitch, right? So knit 2, purl 2 until the last 2, and at those last 2, which is your other edge, you're going to knit 2. So you slip 1, knit 2, knit off, and then purl 2. See that? Super easy. I'm not even going to go all the way to the end, because all you're going to do is knit 2, purl 2 till the end and finish with your edge, which is 2 knit stitches. All right, once you're done with that row, you are ready for rows 3 through 6, which all you're going to do is repeat rows 1 and 2 more times, and you guys now totally understand how to repeat. One thing I want to make sure you don't forget is to take the knot off the anchor peg after a few rows. So when you're ready to start row 3, 4, whatever, after a few rows, you can remove the knot off your anchor peg. You don't want to leave it. That would be a problem. All right. Okay. So after you're done with rows 3 through 6, you're then ready for row 7. And for row 7, like all of our rows, you're always going to slip 1 at the beginning of the row, knit 1, and then you're going to now go back to that horizontal broken rib. So you're going to do a purl 1, knit 1 until the last 3, where you're going to purl 1 and knit 2. So let's get to it. You slip one, and then knit one, and we're going to do purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one. That is the 1 by 1 rib stitch, and that's what we're going to do for row 7. And once we reach the end, you do that purl 1, knit 2, because again, here in the scarf, just like when we did the hood, we have our edges. So here are those last 3 where you're going to purl 1. You guys already know how to do the purl stitch. I'm just showing you to show you. And end with that edge, which is 2 knit stitches. So wrap those 2 pegs and knit off. Yay! And now you are done with 7 and you're ready for row 8. For row 8, as always, you're going to slip 1 at the beginning of your row and knit 1. Then again, you're doing that purl 1, knit 1, which is that 1 by 1 rib stitch. At the end of this row, however, you only have 2 stitches left over, and you're going to knit those 2 stitches, which is your edge, right? So just like before, slip 1, knit 1, and then purl 1 and knit 1. Purl 1, knit 1. All right. So you continue again. Like I said, this is that 1 by 1 rib stitch pattern that you're doing again, just like you did on in row 7, but this time at the end of this row there's only 2 stitches instead of 3, and those 2 last stitches you wrap, knit off, and you're done, and you're ready for row 9. Row 9 is that super easy row in the stitch pattern, which is basically you're going to slip that first stitch, so slip 1 and then knit 18, which just means to knit the row. And since you guys you know how to eWrap, wrap all of your, slip the first one and then wrap all of your pegs, then knit off all of them, all 18, which is how many pegs you have. And once you've done that, you knit off all your pegs, you're ready for row 10. For row 10, you're going to slip 1, then knit 1, and then you're going to purl 15, and then you're going to end with those 2 knit stitches, which is your edge. Okay, so slip 1, knit 1. Now start doing those purl stitches, because you just finished your edge, which was a slip 1, knit 1. Now you're going to then follow that with 15 purl stitches, which you guys are so good at because you have so much practice by this point. And as always, this row will end with your edge, which is 2 knit stitches right here. So wrap, wrap, knit off. Now what you're going to be doing is that starting with row 11, you're going to repeat rows 7 through 10 69 times if you're a shorty like me, or as many times as you need in order to get your desired length, right? Because I want to give you a quick look. This is what the scarf looks like when it's done and it's on a table. You need that length of that scarf to be long enough. I am only 5 feet tall, and I wanted my pockets to land where it was comfortable for me, whether I was standing or sitting. That's not going to be the same for you. If you're like me, then repeat it 69 times. If you're taller or you want it to be different, then for every inch that you want your scarf to be longer than mine, which was 67 inches, then you need to repeat it. Every repeat will give you an inch. So for my stitch, for my scarf again, I repeated the pattern 69 times for a total of 286, but everyone's different, so make sure that you measure your project while you knit to get your desired length, and then get to the next part. Okay, so in my case, I'm on row 287. Your row may be higher, so hopefully you've been counting your rows. Now we're reaching the end where we're at the other side of the pocket, and for that we're going to do a slip 1, knit 1, and then do purl 2, knit 2 until the last 5 stitches, where we will do 2 purl stitches followed by 3 knit stitches. So again, this is the last top of your pocket, and so you're going to slip 1 and knit 1, and then do that 2 by 2 rib stitch, which is 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits. Continue doing that until you reach the last 5 stitches, where you'll do 2 purls and then 3 knit stitches. You're then ready to move on to either row 288 or higher, depending on what row you're on. This next row, you're going to slip 1, then knit 2, purl 2 until the last 2 stitches, where you'll do knit 2. So as always, when you start the row, you slip 1 and then knit 2, purl 2, and I'm using where I wrap my knits and then come back later and knit them off. So remember that these last 2 rows come about after you have the length that you want for your scarf and your pockets. Alright, so the last thing you're going to do is you're going to repeat the last 2 rows you just knitted. You're going to repeat those 2 rows 2 more times. In my case, that makes rows 289 through 292. But to make it simpler, just remember that all you're doing is repeating the last 2 rows that you did 2 more times, and then you're ready for the cast off. Just like before, we're going to use the basic bind off for the cast off, and since you guys basically know how to do the basic bind off already, I'm just going to let you watch what I'm doing while I take the time to say thank you to you for watching this video almost all the way through. For those of you that are in my Patreon and you support me, those that share my video, that go to LoomaHat.store and purchase patterns, I have to say thank you, because I'm here because you make it possible. I want to say thanks to those of you that take the time to leave me messages and let me know how my patterns make it possible for you to be a giver. I can't do as much charity as I used to anymore, and so the fact that you guys are doing it is just awesome, and it's a blessing to me, and I want to make sure that I take this time and that I thank you for that. So yeah, you guys are awesome, and I want you to know that you're appreciated. Alright guys, so this is the basic bind off, and we're ready for assembly once we're done. Here we are on those last 2 pegs, so wrap peg 2, knit off, move it over to peg 1, tighten your stitch, knit off, and pull on that loop, and then you can cut your working yarn with your scissors and finish pulling it out and release the the project from your knitting loom, and you'll see your edge looks fabulous. Now if you want, you can tighten those cast on from that first pocket top. I'm gonna do it, but I'm not gonna show you. You already know how. you just start pulling on those loose loops, and don't forget to go to the other end and take the knot off of the end of the working yarn and pull it out. That's going to make it easier. Alright guys, so keep going on this if you're wanting to tighten the cast on for your scarf, and we're ready to move on. So now that the two pieces are done, we've knitted, you're going to sew and assemble. And the first thing you're going to do is take that first piece, which was the hood, and you're going to fold it in half. And then you're going to decide whether you want to sew straight for a pointy hood or sew curved for a rounded hood like mine. Now your folded part should be at the top, and your right should be open, the left should be open, and the bottom should be open as well. And what you're going to do is pick your right or left side, and you're going to sew either straight for a pointy hood like a pixie hood, or you're going to curve it when you sew, which is what I'm going to do, and that'll give you my type of hood. I didn't want a point on it, but hey, you're welcome to do that if you like. Now what we're going to do is take those two strands and tie them together, and then get your yarn needle, thread it with one of the two, doesn't matter, whichever one is longer, and we're going to then start from the bottom, going from one side to the next to connect them. We're going to connect the two sides. If you don't have a long tail to work with like this, just put one in, right? You just take your working yarn and feed it through two of the loops on the top, and then make a knot just like I made a knot with these two, and then start sewing upward. And again, we're going from side to side. As you can see, I take two of them, go in, take the two on the other side and sew through, and then go upwards. So we're going to continue to do that. And by the way, I'm on the wrong side of the project. You can choose which side you like better. They don't look exactly the same. I know here it looks like they do look the same, but they don't. So you need to pick which side you like better. And you could see that the other side is not going to show up, and then you're going to go up to that point and then curve. So you're going to leave about a fourth, and if for some reason you run out of yarn like I did here in order to sew it, then just bring in a bigger piece, wrap it around it, make a knot, and then the longer piece, that's one you're going to use to continue knitting. I ran out of yarn to sew upward, and now I need to go to the side, so I really needed a longer piece. It's no biggie. You could see that it's easily done. All right, now I'm gonna start curving, and sorry that my big head is in the way. Long story, no point in getting into it. Yeah, my nappy hair is all over the place. That's usually what I look like when I'm working. So now you have an inside look. I work with bed hair, yeah, you know what I mean. All right, so you curve it in, as you see that I did, till you get to the top again. And once you're there at the very top, I want you to see what that's looking like. You will have to shape this. You will have to pull on your yarn to get that sewing to get situated correctly. This is the right side of it, and you could see what it looks like. I am going to come back and reinforce it. In other words, I'm going to sew through what I've already done one more time to get a good look. So from the bottom, I'll come back up again and sew that. And then you do have this like leftover because you curved. You could leave it like that, which is what I did, and then just you know, make a knot with the working yarn that you were sewing up. Or if you want, you can close it like this and sew it upward. I just leave it like that because it doesn't bother me, and as you can see, it looks fine. You feel nothing when you wear it, but if you know that's hard for you, then don't. All right, next part. Now you're gonna get your scarf, and what you're gonna do is it has a rib stitch on both ends. So you're going to fold those two ends in, and you want to fold them in enough for them to cover your hands and your wrists. And sorry about the noise, there's dogs here that are playing with their toys, and so I got to work around them. All right, so you see that I'm sewing the pockets on the two sides, right? And you want to make sure that you are on the correct side of your stitch on your scarf. So you take the bottom and you fold it up, like I said, with enough space to cover your hand and wrist. And then I'm gonna get a loose strand of yarn, because I want to show you how to do this when you don't have a strand of yarn that's attached to your project. You just get one that's long enough to go through your project at least, I would say 3 times, so that you get enough. And then I'm going to start from that top, that tip top where there's a knot, and I'm going to I don't want to do it like this. I want to come from the inside. I'm going to feed the yarn. That's going to leave one end of the yarn inside, and I'll weave it in later. And then I'll take the yarn needle and go to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from side to side, and as you can see, there are V's, right? So I'm going inside those V's that you shape when you slip one. It creates that nice edge, and so we want to bring those two sides together, and you want to go in the middle of those V's that are shaped by that knit stitch, and you want to go in, out. And as you can see, I'm sewing this time on the outside of the project instead of the inside, because I kind of want to see that side, so that's why I'm doing it. If you don't like it that way, you can sew it from the inside, but I like the way this looks, and so I'm sewing on the outside. And once you're completely done, see how it has like an appearance of the knitting continuing. And then I'm just going to reinforce it, because you know, you put your hands in and you want to make sure that it's okay. So I am reinforcing it by bringing the yarn back up, which is the same thing I'm going to be doing with my hood, and that's how you reinforce the sewing. And so I bring it back up, and then to the very, very top of the pocket. Make sure that you have that corner done real good, because those are the ones that come apart. And then just bring your needle inside with your yarn, and you can sew that first yarn piece that you had with this leftover. And like I said, there it is, it's done. Look how beautiful it looks, and you can weave in that in later and do the other side. That's it. There's your pocket, and you're going to do that on the other side. And see, you make sure that your hand fit. That's it. Now we're ready to connect the hood to the scarf. When you open up the hood, it sort of folds in the sides, and it turns into a triangle, because where you sewed the two sides together ends up in the middle. And I'm sorry that I didn't video doing this, so hopefully you'll be able to figure it out when you see it. Once you turn it into a triangle, you're then going to put it together with a scarf, and you're going to sew it. So here is the hood turned triangle, and you can see that basically when you stretch it open and the part that you sewed is in the middle, it takes this shape. Then what you're going to do is bring the scarf over and flatten it so you can find the middle, and you'll see that's where you sewed it. You need that, the middle of the scarf there with the hood, so that the back part where your head is in the middle. So this side needs to connect, and this side needs to connect. We're going to sew it all as one a piece. So I'm using locking stitch markers to secure it, because actually I'm going to put this on my head and try it out to make sure that it is in the middle, right? So putting these locking stitch markers or safety pins or pins or whatever you have that can secure the two sides together, you want to use that to make sure that, again, that you're putting it in the middle. And as you can see, remember that I was telling you, you can clearly see where we sewed this together, and when you opened up and fold it down, it created that panel. I mean, that triangle. Sorry about that. Okay, so I wanted to show you this so that you see that this is what it's going to look like when you fold in the ends. So you're in the opposite side, on the inside of the scarf, the part that you like least. Those are the parts that you're going to sew. So get a long strand of yarn, do it about 3 to 4 times. Actually didn't make it long enough, so I would say do it at least 4 times the length of the hood, and cut that piece of strand and thread your needle with it. And then we're gonna start sewing from one of the two ends. I started on my right, and you want to make sure that you sew this end well, because you don't want it to later on fall apart. So those ends are really important that we get it done nicely. All right, so let's go ahead and start sewing. And again, we are on the back side, or the one that you like least of the two sides of the fabric, and this is the correct side. So I'm going to bring my needle in from the wrong side of the fabric, and then I'm going to sew from the right side of the fabric, just like I did the pockets. So I'm bringing my needle in, and I'm going to get that first corner. Hopefully you tried it on before you did this. I'm then going to make a knot to secure that strand of yarn. I'm going to come back and weave it in later, and I'm going to start sewing from the inside, and then take my yarn needle and bring it out, because I actually want to sew from the right side of the fabric, the one that shows. You don't have to do it this way. I kind of like the way this looks, and so that's why I'm doing it. And just like before, I'm going side to side, and you see that I grab the middle and then I go side to side. So from one side, the middle of that V, to the middle of the V on the other side. And again, I'm on the right side of the. So I don't want to be a pest, but again, make sure that before you start sewing these two pieces together, that you tried on your hooded scarf, and that your pockets land where you want them, and that you and that they're not lopsided, right? That you don't have one pocket that's higher than the other one before you sew. Then it should look like this. This one is folded in half. And that's what it will look like if you did it correctly. And hopefully you did, because this is a whole lot of work. Make sure that once you finish and you're on the other end, that you secure that edge really good, because you don't want it to fall apart starting at the edge. And once you've had it all together, that's it. That is your hooded scarf with pockets. And I hope you guys really love this. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Visit the store at LoomaHat.store. Share the video, and come back and loom with me again. Until then, check out some of my other videos. YouTube is going to be showing you what they think you want to see. So check it out. All right, Looma. Bye.